For Off the Block, I'm Dane Lopes. I'm now joined by Brad Keller. We know him as one of the associate head coaches, assistant coaches at UCLA, but he was also serving this last week as the U.S. boys team's head coach as they play in the NORCECA U19 Championship, won the silver medal, and qualified for the World Championship in 2019. And, Coach, have to ask, you ran into a tough Cuba team, but overall, how would you assess your team's performance?
Overall, I thought it was great. I thought it was a group of young men who 7 of them have never been outside the country, wide-eyed, fired up to wear the jersey, broke down crying, singing their national anthem, to learning some tough lessons, sticking together, playing tough volleyball, and really gutting out through schedule and everything else, a bid opportunity, and then capitalizing on that to earn our chance to go to World Championship. So really excited for this group and for the future for next year as well.
Yeah. Now, Coach, I do want to ask you, obviously, kind of keeping track of this tournament and everything, it looked like you and Cuba were the 2 top teams, but how would you assess the overall quality of play at the tournament with some of the smaller countries in competing?
That's always a good question because it just depends. Some teams have like one guy, and some teams are, they just scrap together what they can. Some of them have been playing for a really long time, and so you just don't know much about these teams in general. I would say the 3 teams that were really good were ourselves, Puerto Rico, and Cuba, and then Guatemala and Costa Rica had some guys in the team that really could do some things that a lot of other teams could not. And so they relied heavily on those 1 or 2 guys on their teams and the ball control. So I would say it was a mixed bag across the board, whether it's high level to mid-level. And then the environment of international volleyball just causes a lot of stress for everybody.
Yeah, well, talking about some of that stress, because you wind up playing, I believe, 6 matches in a 5-day span. Can you just talk about how different that is from a saying that you're used to at the college level, and then even, the players at, playing club level, they probably don't get that many games in that type of environment.
Well, it's funny you say that because the format was not supposed to be that. There was actually supposed to be another day of competition, but because World Cup soccer was happening, and Costa Rica is such a big deal soccer there, they actually had, places rented out or whatever, so they condensed the tournament one more day, or like they packed it in. And then when it didn't occur, they just left it as is because it was too late to change. So we weren't supposed to play 2 matches in a day, but we trained all week and a half, 2-a-days, exactly the format of what we ended up playing. So I think we got a little lucky in some ways by training that way. It wasn't as stressful as it needed to be because these guys have done it before.
All right. And for you in particular, looking at your team, a lot of good performances, but who do you think was the player in your eyes that stood out the most for Team USA?
I think different guys at different times did some great things. I think, Mason Briggs was steady across the board. I thought Solon had a huge match, Scotty Solon versus Puerto Rico. We needed a right-side presence, and he really stepped up in that match. Alex Knight was probably consistently our best player during this tournament. Whenever we needed big plays, he kind of stepped up and executed every single time, whether it was from a blocking, serving, or attacking standpoint. And then Akil Sangator came on late. He was a guy that wasn't a starter for us and then became a starter with his consistency, and he had a great shot selection. He knew what shots to hit at the right time.
And, Coach, looking at this team and everything moving forward, obviously, a lot of positive takeaway. What do you feel was the biggest positive that you saw from these guys?
There were a lot of positives, a lot. And a couple that stood out to me was the ability to play Cuba twice, which doesn't normally happen, is a blessing. Cuba is a big-time team, and they're going to do very, very well at World Championships. They check off a lot of boxes. and to be able to see them twice and play them regardless of win or loss is going to be very helpful moving forward for our training. And then playing a Puerto Rican team that was heavy pins and just had a lot of, I call it moxie, but swagger to how they played and passion, and they were really good, well coached by Juan Albaran, I think helped. And then putting on your jersey for the first time for USA and playing outside your comfort zone for the first time and losing and having to grind and get better and to be tough. I think these lessons were so crucial for this team that's used to the AFC or JOs and the air-conditioned convention center and everything's laid out for them to have to go international and compete and to grind out, wins and to get a bid, I think only helps us moving forward.
And just going off that, obviously, playing Cuba, played them in the championship match, lost to them. But what do you feel, maybe as you kind of talk to the opportunity to play them, for the players, what do you think that they took away from those matches in terms of, hey, this may be an area of the game that I thought I was good at, or I may need to develop a little bit more in?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is that all those guys on our team are the stars, right? They're the stars of their club teams. They're the stars of their high school teams. They're the guy. And now they come down here, and there are bigger monsters they're playing up against, and that's tough. And so I think it was really good for them to see that and to see what is the actual mark they have to get to. And I think these guys, first of all, this team did everything that we asked them to do. Everything. They had great attitudes. They were great ambassadors of our country and our team. They were unbelievably great kids. So I think they look at this and go, okay, that team's really good and they're better than us right now. So I think they're going to go back and say, these are the things we have to do to beat that team. And I think that's a great group to have in the gym. You want that. So I'm completely encouraged by all of this.
And Coach, final question. We'll let you go on this. For you personally, this being your, I know that you've been involved with Team USA, but this was really your first time to be a head coach in one of these tournaments. What was the biggest thing that you learned from this experience?
Well, I learned a couple things as well. One thing is that I was very well prepared for this tournament, meaning that my mentors ahead of me, Ken Shibuya, running 2 years with him, John Hawks with the junior team, Sam Swiesky, this last one, going through with Cuba and then going to Bahrain, 2 uncomfortable areas for us. And then obviously my boss, Bra, you just being around people that have done it, there was nothing that was completely uncomfortable. We had answers for everything between our staff, and we could problem solve, and we were comfortable because we've been around it for the experiences. So I was really surprised and excited to know that I was prepared for that. I had an unbelievable staff that problem solved and didn't give up, and they were beyond positive. And I think that's just so rewarding to be in a different place and to go through that. So I think those were some major positives for me. And, the last positive, regardless of your question, was just to be able to represent your country as a head coach was pretty emotional for me. I don't take that for granted. I know that no one else before me has taken that for granted, and to put your hand over your heart during that national anthem and to have the trust of the kids that you work with and the staff and the country behind you was something I'll never forget. And I'm very thankful. I'm humbled about it. And I'm excited that we get another opportunity to become better and compete at World Championships.